if you haven't heard, which means you're probably not in the conservative media bubble, Netflix announced a new show, Cuties, back in the summer, and it released in September. And Karen has lost her damned mind. So in a social media response that brings me back to the nostalgic days of the 1990s where Doom was the devil's work, or the 1980s when Dungeons and Dragons was the devil's work, or the 1970s when Kiss was the devil's work, or the 1960s when hippies were the devil work, or the 1950s when hip-shaking rock and roll was the devil's work, or the 1940s when the Krauts were the devil's work, or the 1930s when flapper girls were the devil's work, or the 1920s when Italians were the devil's work. Okay, this is getting a little long, but you get the idea. In the long list of fainting couch manufactured outrages, we now have a movie of an 8 to 10-year-old bunch of French girls who are clearly influenced by the latest Cardi B video. So what's the outrage? Well, a poster came out that looked like Fisher-Price, My First Magic Mike movie, and every Karen and salt-of-the-earth, devout, God-fearing type came out of the woodwork to chastise it again and again and again and again. Screenshots of the poster with a publicly brave declaration that they don't like pedos, and anybody who says anything other than that about the movie gets plastered with the pedo tag. And you know what? People will keep on doing this because all of the well-intentioned knee-jerk reactions are the reason that movies like this exist. Why? Because it normally costs a company millions of dollars to get the word out on a new movie, and some low-key French director did it in just 5 minutes of Photoshop for free. Now, I can't believe I have to state this, but I'm obviously not a fan of minors. I don't intend to watch the movie. I have no idea if it's any damned good. In fact, I even have an old blog post where I suggest guys need to stop consuming media that's not designed for them, and this is a prime example. So, back to the topic. Netflix gave out a half-hearted apology saying they were tone deaf about the movie poster, turned it from Fisher-Price, My First Magic Mike, into Fisher-Price, My First Sex in the City. Movie comes out, and again, every Karen and salt-of-the-earth, devout, God-fearing man came out of the woodwork to chastise it again, and again, and again. Screenshots of the clips they watched and found most offensive, along with the publicly brave declaration that they don't like pedos, and anybody who says anything other than that about the movie gets plastered with the pedo tag, and now, the most likely scenario, a few people had this morbid curiosity. Is this thing really as bad as everybody's saying? People who had zero interest in a coming-to-age, preteen dancing movie with diversity and inclusion from a foreign country, watching what they otherwise wouldn't just because mom said not to stick the fork in the electric socket. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Not stick a fork in the electric socket? These people aren't made of stone, you know. So how do I know this? Well, it's because I've seen it tons of times already. There's a guy, Ryan Holiday, a former media manipulator. He used to do this with tons of guys in the social media space that I inhabit. Tucker Max. He had him to face advertisements for his book, pretending to be an outraged feminist. He sent copies of manufactured outrage to feminist blogs desperate for content, showing his somehow best-selling book as a misogynist manifesto. And do you know what? It worked. It worked like a charm. We also have guys like Roosh V writing a satirical piece about legalizing struggle hugging. Add in there a ton of outrage. He showed up on Dr. Oz, or was it Dr. Phil? I don't know, it's one of Oprah's minions. Mike Cernovich did the same. If you want to see how the magic works, check out the book by Ryan Holiday describing how media manipulation happens. It's called Confessions of a Media Manipulator. Trust me, I'm lying. It is a great read, and journalism schools now have it in their school syllabus. Every media-savvy brand knows this. If somebody likes your product, they'll tell a friend. If somebody hates your product, they will shout it from the rooftops to everybody who will listen, whether they want to hear about it or not. And so now we get to the title of this. We have nobody to blame for this but ourselves. So now, take a leap here. Let's assume this angry, passive-aggressive, armchair, moral mob means well. They are literally creating the monster that they're angry about. This film, which would have otherwise been in the giant list of Netflix films that your girlfriend scrolls past while looking for episodes of Lucifer or that favorite episodes of Friends she has, now knows nothing but every piece of social media she ingests can talk about nothing else but Fisher-Price, my first Magic Mike. So, most channels like to complain, then cathartically end their videos asking for likes, shares, and subscribes. I'm going to do something a little bit different for you. I'm going to add some actionable advice for you. I'm going to tell you what you can do now that you know what you know. So if you learn nothing else from this video, learn this. The worst thing you can do is consume media that's not designed for you. The second worst thing you can do is advertise for media that offends you. The third worst thing you can do is forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, and share it far and wide on social media, except for Facebook, because screw Facebook. Look, Netflix has an army of lawyers. There is zero chance they're going to approve a movie that breaks the law, so know whatever this movie is, it's not illegal. If you don't like that law the way it is now, petition your lawmakers. If you don't want to do that kind of work, well then, that tells me exactly how much you actually care, which is a lot less caring than you advertise. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't talk about it. Don't take screenshots about it. And definitely don't yell into the void about it. Don't downvote or dislike or comment or like or engage with it. In the information age, the only currency is attention, so vote with your wallet. Movies like this, if they are as bad as Pundit X suggests, would never get shown, they'd never get made, and they would never even get past the script writing process if nobody talks about them. And Pundit X knows this too, by the way. Remember what I said before? And he's counting on you, by the way, to be too emotional to care. That's how he appeals to you. You know, that heartfelt pundit from the heartland, salt to the earth, the family man, who just gets you. Yeah, he gets you. Yeah, he gets you better than you get you. He riles you up, he pisses you off, and then he assures you everything is gonna be alright. So like, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Here's All the Things You Hate and We'll Share with Everybody. So if you follow my very impressive titled guide, How to Do Nothing and Get What You Want, you're going to find it works for more than just some French indie film. Life will get a lot better. Less anxiety, less anger, less need to buy stuff. Plus, think of all the time you just saved by not watching Pundit X yelling into a ceiling fan telling you it's a hurricane, then selling you anti-hurricane potions. Now, personally, I have a feeling the hype about this movie is extremely overblown. The obscene parts are probably not as bad as people think, and they just got a great opening weekend from the binge crowd. The last movie I watched that was full of 10-year-olds was The Goonies, and if you know what's good for you, that's the only thing you should be watching too. So now that you've made it to the end, you're going to be a much more savvy media consumer who is no longer falling for this outrage bait, who's no longer advertising for things that you don't like and don't want others to like. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for another episode of Don't Eat Paint. Anyways, thank you for tuning in for this one. This is an episode of Red Pilled Coffee. Hope you enjoyed yourself. You know the spiel. You know how to find more of these videos like this. I got a ton of them. Don't forget, Patreon community. Right now, we're 250 plus members strong right now, where we talk about all kinds of things, sexual strategy-wise. We have some private forums. It's a great time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.